But we like to start all of these live shows off the same way with a little bit of that lo-fi global news for you. And if you're in my class, yes, you will see this next week on a quiz, probably. Just saying, maybe. In the news lately, anyone been checking out what's going on in France? Because lawmakers passed a bill simplifying the returning of artwork looted during the colonial era. Which, well, that's good, right? If you steal stuff during colonization, bring it on back. It's the 21. Have we read this story over here?
She's from France.
Oh, this makes a lot more sense. The French people are well represented tonight. Well, your country has done a great service, except for the bill. Now I'm going to look at you. Sorry, all of the shade France is about to get has suddenly directed itself towards this UNO student. All right? They put a clause on this bill saying that it applies to things looted between the years. Well, I'm going to phrase it like this. 1972 is the cutoff date. How far back do you think this law goes?
3 years.
3 years. You really don't like the French, do you? Okay? 3 years? Come on. Way, way back, right? How far back are they going to try to make a rush to return stuff? It's looted artwork. When did colonization begin for Europe? That's a question it's all about. Maybe 1492 rings a bell for some people. Maybe 1500s, 1600s. Sure. 1815 to 1972 is the time frame of the law that France is going to be using to expedite the return of stolen, looted items during the colonial era. 1815 is very late in the colonial game.
Yeah.
So France, nice first step forward, but this is a good sign though. Countries deciding that, hey, it's time to give back looted materials during colonization, it is a step in the right direction. We just need to expand our definition of when colonization started to before 1815. Right? Now, next up, over in Peru, talking presidential politics, I have a few stories about presidential politics. So Peru is having a presidential election, and currently, ballots are being counted. We are now on day 2 of counting ballots for the Peruvian presidential election, and it looks like it's going to be going into a runoff. Right? And one of our candidates is the daughter of a former president of Peru, a well-known, notorious president of Peru who committed crimes against humanity in the 1990s. Anyone here a fan of President Fujimori?
Ooh.
Why are you a fan of someone who committed crimes against humanity? No one's a fan of this individual. But we are not our parents, right? So perhaps this President Fujimori, if they're elected, will be different. Have we ever heard of presidents' children being presidents before? All of you shake your head yes. You might be young, but you were here when the second Bush was president, right? It happens in countries all around the world. But something interesting about Peruvian elections, they have compulsory voting. Does anyone know what compulsory voting is?
Gun to your back, go vote.
Excuse me?
Gun to your back, go vote.
Minus the gun to your back. Hard. It is mandatory to vote, right? You have to vote. What if you don't vote? You get a fine in Peru. Anyone want to guess how much is that fine if you don't vote in Peru? Not voting in a presidential election. The country of Peru costs you how much? How much?
Like $5?
A few hundred?
$2.
2,000.
It is $32.
Oh, 32.
Now, while you say $32 might not seem like much, you happen to be standing in a country with the largest GDP in the world. So our view of $32 is greatly skewed as far as a penalty for not voting. But I just think it's always interesting whenever we see another country having elections and compulsory voting is there. All right, next up to another presidential election in the country of Djibouti, where the president has won re-election. And this one we are going to do in terms of rapid fire kind of questions for Djibouti presidential election. For instance, I'm going to tell you real quick, this president is a dictator. Been around for a long time. Question first, which term are they being re-elected to? So it's not their first term, not their second term, not their third or fourth term. Ninth, close. It's their 6th term in office they just won. And They won it now going into their 27th year. But what percent of the vote do you think they won by? Now, especially those of you who've had me in classes before, you know my motto about after an election gets a certain percentage high, it's not really an election, it's not really real. What do you think this person stole the election with? 83%. 83% would be low. This individual wanted to make sure people, 100, almost, 97.8%. How do you win an election with 97.8% of the vote? It's not an election at that point. But what I find interesting about this, the country of Djibouti, in order for this president to run again, they had to change the constitution to let them run again, which we see happen all the time. But the interesting thing is what they had to change. Normally, countries have to change term limits. Djibouti changed an age limit. The age limit to have to leave office for president was 75 years old. And I find that an interesting thought. What if presidents had to leave when they were 75? I don't know what life would be like. Right? Next up, we are going to move to, I'm sorry, I did not silence my stuff. Oh, I know, give me, okay. Our next story, we are moving on over to Bangladesh, where Bangladesh had a popular uprising and protest movement in 2024, overthrew the entire government. We have a new government coming into office. A new government is in office. Bangladesh has a new start, a fresh new start. Except for right now, Bangladesh is unfortunately in the middle of an oil crisis, just like much of the world is in an oil crisis. For Bangladesh, this is hitting them a very hard kind of way and in a very hard kind of time. Listen to these stipulations or these new provisions that the government has put in to try and help deal with the fact that the oil crisis is getting this bad in Bangladesh. So first off, there is fuel rationing, right? So you can only get so much fuel at a time. Then limiting vehicular sales, so no longer selling more vehicles. Closing fuel stores early. So that means you can't even go to a gas station because they'll be closed later on. Schools likely going online. And markets and shopping centers are now all being closed at 6 p.m. to try and save electricity. And even government is now shutting down. Government offices are only going to be open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to ration electricity. Think about that for a second. You're closing government offices early to ration electricity. That's a big deal. That says something right there. And they are also asking for $2.5 billion in fuel aid. If you're unsure how much $1 billion is, it's a lot. And $2.5 billion in fuel aid on top of everything else that I just listed should paint a picture in Bangladesh that things are not going well. And it is a brand new government that just overthrew an authoritarian regime. And if you've taken any of my classes, you also know what creates political instability? Economic instability, like exactly what we have right now in Bangladesh, which means this brand new government in Bangladesh is about to have really early on a very difficult time to try and see if they can survive or not. And a last piece of news to send us into the show itself, to the country of Hungary we go. Has anyone read about Hungary in the news lately? How's that feeling about Hungary in the news? I saw someone start to clap and some other people start to cheer. Yes, Hungary has had elections, so to speak, parliamentary elections. How many of you have ever heard of Viktor Orban? Where are the Viktor Orban fans? All the hands went down very quickly in the house. Well done, well done, well done. But Viktor Orban's party, the Fidesz party, lost, which was huge. They lost, the opposition party gained 70% of parliamentary seats. They have a super majority, which means they will be able to pass legislation very quickly, which means Hungary could transform very quickly as well. So what does that mean you're going to be reading about Hungary in the news in the near future? Probably very little, because it's mostly in the news. When something goes bad, that's when we typically hear about it. So Hungary has been in the news a lot. Viktor Orban has been in the news a lot. But I have a feeling now things are about to get quiet in Hungary. But I don't think that's necessarily a reason to ignore Viktor Orban in the future. I don't think he's done with Hungarian politics. I think it's a bit early to suggest that. All right, well, that's the intro of our show. Now to the exciting part. Now to the part that I know my students are dreading. Everyone, please put your hands together and welcome up our trivia crew.